The VW Golf GTI is an icon. For over 40 years, it's been the clear choice for anyone looking for a small car that can do everything. There have been 7 iterations to date, and the latest, the Mk5, might just be the perfect car. In fact, rumour has it, a certain J. Clarkson doesn't drive anything else. But we're not talking about that car today, we're talking about this car, the Mk5 GTI. And there's a very specific reason we're talking about this car instead. Basically, dented it. Basically, I can afford this car. And here's the thing, a brand new GTI can easily cost you £30,000. This, however, this Mk5, I bought this car a few months ago for 1/10 of that price. Less than £3,000. Having lived with this thing for a few months, I can say this with absolute confidence. If you, like me, are a young, poor petrolhead, looking for a reliable daily driver that's also a little bit spicy, you'd be insane to buy anything else. Now, allow me to give you the world's fastest history lesson on the Golf GTI. 1975, the Mark I is released, instant classic. Legendary car, amazing stuff. You wouldn't want to drive one today though, because it's from the 70s, which means the brakes are made of poppadoms. Mark II comes out, another brilliant car, very, very good. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Mark III, tricky thirst album, a little bit portly, a little bit sluggish. Mark IV, obese. Rock bottom, the worst GTI of them all. And then we get to the Mk5 and the prodigal son returns. Now, even in those dark ages of the Mark III and IV, the GTI was always reliable, practical and comfortable. Of course it was, it's a Golf. But this is the car where the GTI got its mojo back, its chuckability, its sense of fun. Now, why am I so sure that the GTI was the right pick? Why am I so sure this is the best car for £3,000? Well, when you choose a car, it kind of comes down to 2 things, what you want and what you need. Now, the things I needed were fairly simple. I needed something that was cheap to run, reliable. I needed it to have rear seats, a boot for my shopping, and I quite wanted it to be a fairly small car because I live in London and it's too annoying trying to park a big one. Now, those things are easily achieved. Any cheap car will do those. My old diesel Ford Fiesta did those things brilliantly. But when you start adding the stuff you want, that's when it gets a bit tricky. That's when you have to start making compromises. And all the other cars that I looked at for this money that were desirable, there was always a compromise. I'll give you some examples. I had a look at a Renault Sport Clio 197. I was really tempted by that car. Amazing fun to drive. It's like a go-kart. But it's got a really plasticky interior, it's got a weird ride position, and it's also just too firm. It's too annoying to live with. In a moment of madness, I seriously considered buying an Alfa Romeo 159 because, you know, Alfa Romeo, sexy, Italian. But, as we know, buying an old high-mileage Alfa Romeo is kind of suicidal. True story, an uncle of mine used to have an Alfa Romeo 159, and if you looked at it for too long, it would catch fire. Weird. The reason this is the best car for £3,000 is it has no buts. The GTI gives you everything you need and all the things you want, and it's perfectly balanced between the two. Perfect example, the ride in this car. Most hot hatches, they're just too bumpy. It's annoying to live with on a daily basis, they shake you to pieces. This is so civilized in traffic. It's so nice to be in, driving slowly. But when you get on a nice twisty B road like we're on now, it feels great. It's not floaty, it doesn't feel too light, it is planted, it's focused, it hits that balance perfectly. It's so well measured, and that is the story of this car. What else did I want? Well, I wanted it to be fast. It's plenty fast. It's got a 2-litre turbocharged engine. It makes about 200 horsepower, 0 to 60 just over 7 seconds, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't really matter. The truth is, it's more than enough. Now look, I realise it might seem a bit boring to suggest that the best car for the money is the one with the least downsides. But I actually think there's something quite exciting about a car that you never feel caught out in. Think about this. If you asked 100 petrolheads what their dream daily driver would be, money not an object, I bet you most of them would name some sort of outrageous super saloon, an M5 or an RS6. We like those because they give us everything we want in outrageous quantities. Do you want style, luxury and comfort? Here's a shitload of all of them. We like having our cake and eating it, us petrolheads. And this car, the GTI, it's the same thing scaled right down. It's everything that you could want in a car in the perfect amount. That is the reason that the GTI is the king of hot hatches, and that's why for the money, it's the best thing you can have. This is the driver's car that you actually want to live with.